Frankenstein meat, the future to be afraid of. Built in bioreactor. In 1818, Mary Shelley wrote about a scientist named Victor Frankenstein, who created a creature using human parts. The creature caused a great deal of chaos in society because people refused the unnatural idea of production from an element already known to exist. Synthetic meat is produced starting from strips of muscle fiber grown through the fusion of embryonic stem cells. The product's growth takes place in bioreactor and is generated with the tissue engineering techniques used for several years in regenerative medicine. Cells developing in vitro are influenced by their interactions with the extracellular matrix, ECM, which is to say the three-dimensional network of glycoproteins, collagen, and enzymes responsible for transmitting mechanical and biochemical signals to the cell. The result of a laboratory process, the product might be a nutrient, but has nothing to do with the concept of food. Names can be deceiving. Consumers don't want to eat science. When you talk about cells, you leave the realm of deliciousness, which makes it very hard to sell people on an idea. Bob Starkey, Chief Innovation Officer, Medicine. The producers of synthetic meat, or Franken meat, tend to use names that avoid any reference to the fact that the product has no natural origin and has never been part of a living animal. To be more appealing to the consumer, names have been coined upon which to build a perception suggestive of cultivating plants, and thus the land, and of healthiness. Names have therefore emerged for cultured meat, or clean meat, and in the narrative made of it, it becomes more useful to refer to the environment in which stem cells grow as a cultivator rather than by its real name, bioreactor. The reality is that it is not meat, but a synthetic, engineered product. It is not friend to the environment. Lab-grown meat can require a great deal of energy and could end up being worse for the climate than cows are. John Lynch, researcher, Oxford Martin School. One of the benefits claimed by synthetic meat producers is that of reducing or, as the boldest narratives would have it, eliminating impacts on climate change. But the reality is quite different. According to a recent study conducted by a group of scientists at the Oxford Martin School, the environmental impacts of synthetic meat, which is associated with intense energy consumption, might be greater than the impacts of cattle raising. The methane emitted by cattle stays in the atmosphere for about 12 years, while the carbon dioxide linked to growing synthetic meat lingers and accumulates for millennia. According to researchers, over the long term, lab-grown meat can result in greater global warming. It wastes a lot of water. Artificial meat can result in the presence of residues of organic molecules or chemical compounds in the water whose impacts are difficult to assess. Jean-François Auquet, INRA French Institute of Agricultural Research. The polluting potential of synthetic meat does not stop with the climate impacts, and many doubts have focused on water consumption. In fact, growing synthetic meat requires water consumption for greater than that of many cattle raising operations. Moreover, the process produces enormous quantities of organic molecules and chemical compounds whose residues are highly polluting for water resources. Synthetic meat advocates maintaining that these effects will decline in the future, but the same may be said for raised meat, which is drastically reducing its own water consumption. It is a grisly technology. During the process, no form of anesthesia is administered, which opens a more than controversial debate over the animal's well-being. Jan van der Valk, University of Utrecht. One of the promises of artificial meat is the elimination of animal suffering. But this promise appears not to be borne out of by the facts. Cultured meat requires fetal bovine serum as a growth factor in the laboratory, a culture based on calf stem cells. After a cow has been butchered and eviscerated, its uterus, which contains the fetus, is removed. Only fetuses over 3 months of age are used, otherwise the heart is too small to be punctured, and no form of anesthesia is administered. Will what we refer to as farm animals still exist? With what consequences for the land and for biodiversity? Will we in the future have raising operations only to use the fetuses? Frankenmeat is a health myth. Since the first dietary guidelines for United States citizens were published in 1977, meat consumption has declined, but US obesity rates have approximately doubled. Eric Berg, North Dakota University. Artificial meat advocates promote the idea that consuming natural meat is bad for you. This is a myth. The risks of nutritional deficiencies associated with no consuming animal proteins are well documented in human history and by ample medical literature, which in particular points to severe pathological symptoms, at times irreversible for children. Moreover, the high rate of cell proliferation may induce genetic instability of cells, resulting in the potential proliferation of sporadic cancer cells. Moreover, we still have no guarantee that all the chemicals needed for cell cultivation are safe in the context of food consumption. The food monopolies lurk behind the bioreactors. Synthetic meat would contribute towards marginalizing certain collectives and making more vulnerable those that already are. Moyano Fernandez, University of Barcelona. The technology that is used has high entry cost and increasing returns to scale, the necessary ingredients for creating a monopoly. Artificial meat will be a good deal for few people. Shifting food systems towards synthetic meat leads to the loss of traditions based on interactions respectful of ecosystems and on experience in obtaining food in a sustainable, regenerative way. Linking food production and availability to starting up a bioreactor results in the separation of key players in the supply chain and in particular marginalizes farmers and consumers. High-tech and finance aim to control food. In 2020 alone, $366 million of US dollars has been invested in the artificial meat sector. Over the past 5 years, 2016-2020, investment has soared by about 6,000%. GFI analysis of PeachBook data. Investment in the field of synthetic biology has been growing a great deal in recent years, and the names most involved are known above all for being major players in the high-tech and new global finance sectors. Here are some of those names. Eric Schmidt, co-founder of Google, Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal, Mark Andreessen, founder of Netscape, Jerry Yang, co-founder of Yahoo, Vinod Khosla, Sun Microsystems, Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. The future we shall not be eaten by.